Good night, and welcome to Mindful Live 522. I am your host, Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is currently 10:27 p.m. in the beautiful Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, where they say God has residence. They also say that it's not a real place, so you can figure how you balance those two statements. But we are here nonetheless, the 4th of August. The 4th of August. Welcome. Once you're on the inside, if you are viewing this on TikTok, 2 taps on the screen and you like the video, and you can keep doing that, sending those like numbers sky high, allowing the algorithm to know, hey, good stuff going on over here. Send it out. While if you are on YouTube, hit that like button also. Make sure you subscribe. Share the video to some people, Let's get those subscriber numbers climbing. It's been a while. I find it's been a while. It's time we raise some of those subscriber numbers. So hit that subscribe button, share it to some people, tell some people, hey, go take in this content. It's some good stuff. Blessings to the African giant. Are you a snail by chance? Slap snail. No offense, man. I remember I have a very pro-African person on I have quite a few, on my Facebook. And when the giant African snail came out, my boy was livid. How come they always name these detrimental things after Africa? So the snail killing all the plants, so they name it after Africa. And I'm like, sir, they just named it after where it came from. Treasure says every system is violence. History runs on violence. It's a process of our improvement. Every system is violence. No, every system is not violence. Parenthood is not violence. The family is not violence. Abdul says, but Nathan, I kind of have to agree with China for giving Jack Ma a tiki time, trying to crash them. Well, you see, China doesn't run on a free market. So if you jump into the Chinese market and they give you a bit of freedom in the market, you have to recognize you can't flex that freedom overdone. Bishop Andrew says the diet of capitalism will continue to attract violence and numbness to those it affects. But yet still communism leaves way more bodies in its wake. Treasure, jump in and defend the thing. If you want to discuss it, it's Thursday. Let's actually have that discussion. Explain to me how a free market requires violence. I just explained to you why socialism requires violence. It is necessary for that kind of economic system to go on. It is needed. It is essential as a measure of socialism or communism for there to be violence. Why is it necessary in capitalism or a free market? If I want to plant corn and then I want to sell corn to you, why is violence necessary there? Okay, you are making a statement. Defend your statement. Show some kind of factual basis to back up your statement. Or is it just that you are going to force a claim without anything? Look at history. Come on, man. I just explained to you. The largest capitalist market in the world always requires violence for some reason. That's not require. They always perpetrate violence. And we have already established that human history is replete with violence. The African giant says, get rid of competition, mindset of greed. Thank you. That is correct, African giant. The reason that people within a capitalist system often want to perpetrate violence is they want to get rid of their competition. Why? Because their competition decreases their value. Yes. But that isn't required for the system. The market doesn't need you to kill your competition. Competition is what helps the consumers in a free market. It's why all of y'all who speak about socialism and communism never go to shop in communist countries. Good night, Tony the Ambassador. So it's not a necessary part. Isn't capitalism as old as human civilization? People have always been trading one thing. Correct, Otis. And this is why sometimes I don't even like to refer to it as capitalism. Because capitalism was the name given to the free market by the greedy, lazy bum Karl Marx. He wanted to be able to sit at home, get his woman pregnant, cheat on her, be racist, live his dirty, corrupt life, and have the other people pay for it. Because he grew up as a bad child in a wealthy system. So he always looked at the wealthy people around him and was envious of them. So he bred a theory on human envy. Now, Nathan, the world is shopping in China right now. No, they're not shopping in China. They're shopping from China. There is a difference. There is a difference. The market itself isn't in China. Now, someone asked whether Marx spoke about violence himself. Let's pull up some of his quotes. Violence is the midwife of history. Force is the midwife of every society pregnant with a new one. Of course. You need force in order to force people to give up what is theirs. He knew that. He understood. He understood that violence was necessary for what he believed in, and he had no problem with it. But now, modern socialists take his ideology and somehow are trying to convince us that no, we don't need to be violent to take what you have and give it to other people. You are going to enjoy giving us what you have. You are going to enjoy it, so you are going to willingly just give us what you have and allow us to redistribute it. And here's my problem with the people that rightly identify greed as a human condition. You are correct. Greed is a human condition, and it always rears its head inside of the free market. That's why you so often see violence inside of the free market. That's why you see people attempting to monopolize markets all around the place, even though that goes countervalent to what the free market actually is. But if you agree that greed is a human condition, how are you then going to say you are going to build an economic system that depends on humans not being greedy? You're right, Ariev. That's why the anarcho-capitalists, the ANCAP folks and them, they are all taxes are theft. They say all taxes are theft. You should have to pay none. So you're going down the right road for the extreme capitalists. Bishop Andre said greed is a choice. Yeah, it's a choice. So is lust. So is envy. So is jealousy. All human negative traits generally are choices. You can choose to engage in them or not. But that doesn't change the fact that they are part of human-based nature. We know this. So why would we then buy into the foolish notion that we can create a system built on everyone not being greedy? You see, the thing with capitalism is I depend on you being greedy for this system to function. I depend on greedy is oversimplification. I depend on you seeking your best interests. That's what the free market depends on. The buyer seeks his best interest, the seller seeks his best interest, and we come to a fair negotiation through that. Socialism and communism says neither the buyer nor the seller are the ones that seek their best interest. The state, somehow, politicians, Kamala, Rowley, Stewart, Culm, those guys, somehow they would seek our best interests. Come on. Good night, cuz. Good night, big cuz. Love in the house as always. John McCarthy paid. John McCarthy didn't kill himself either. Isn't it ironic? The guy said, if I die, I didn't kill myself. And then, whoops, they said he killed it. Me drink my water and mind my business on those things. Sometimes the system is already tainted with greed and self-preservation steps in or one walks. Which system is not tainted with greed? Good night, Moses George. Tell me, Bishop, which system do you think is not tainted with greed? And which humans do you trust to run a system that depends on them not being greedy? I think if I want to depend on any human nature, I will depend on the human tendency for self-preservation. Each human wants to seek their best interests, and if we can depend on that, the free market works. That's all it is. And yes, because the people are greedy in the free market, as it continues, people will always try to unfairly accumulate more power and cut the market up for their benefit. Yes, that is true. That happens. Capitalism inevitably, it seems, goes into the avenue of crony capitalism. But even still, if I have to choose between the crony capitalists and the politicians running everything, which is what communism is, I would always choose those crony capitalists. I think that's not even a choice. That's a joke of a choice. Who would choose a politician? Even in China, politicians still take the chance and get disappeared. Listen, China doesn't prosecute corruption. China prosecutes corruption from politicians they want to get rid of. As I've said on so many lives, San Francisco has a, what they call it, the Chinese Drive or the Chinese Avenue or something like that. Streets lined with mansions where the concubines of rich Chinese politicians live. How do Chinese politicians get rich if this is communist and everybody shares the goods? We're all in it together. How are there billionaire Chinese politicians then? How does that happen? Magic.
Good night.
Good night, Ronnie. Isn't it great living in a country with a bit of both? Actually, I would rather much less socialism in our country. To be very honest with you, I would rather much less socialism. And here's the thing, I've said this before. My view on social policy, thank you, Moses. I've said this last week. My view on social policy, my view on social policy is, I think it would be taken care of much better by social institutions instead of political institutions. That's one. Joel Chow, it's been ages, bro. Ages. Where, brother? Much better taken care of by social and cultural institutions instead of political institutions. I think that's a given. One. And two, I would prefer much more direct transfers, if you will. Don't give me a ministry of social welfare where 90% of the money we spend goes to the salaries of already well-to-do people. We're making jobs for them, and then a pittance 10% gets to the needy. So really and truly, 90% of what you take from me doesn't actually reach to the poor's pockets. So I would prefer much more direct, like the fuel subsidy. I'm okay with the fuel subsidy. Yes, I know it takes money and yada da 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 da. But that's something way more direct. There isn't a ministry of fuel subsidy. I go to the pump, I take some fuel, the government pays for some of my fuel. Simple like that. I would prefer much more things as such. We don't need a whole government bureaucracy to do social programs. The government bureaucracy is the problematic side. That's where the problems are created, that government bureaucracy. Who wants that? Who thinks that's how we get things done better? Social institutions without government funding. Otis, where does government funding come from? The people. The people, like, it confuses me. The same people that give money to the government to do social programs could give that same money to their church mosque man there, hut, whatever you go to. And that institution does the job. And I am 99% certain those would do a much better job. Much better than the government. We don't need the government to do these things. The idea that we need the government to do these things is incorrect. The government isn't needed to take care of the poor. Our system, the middle class, pays all the taxes and the poor are just there to scare the middle class. That's not really true. In most systems, the rich pay most of the taxes. Yeah, Abdul.
I don't really 100% agree with giving money to the churches and the religious bodies and these other groups would work out better. I ain't convinced on that.
You think?
Why not?
Abdul, you think that Kamla Prasad Bisesa would better distribute your money than your imam? Well, then you need a new imam.
I think
Abdul, you need a new imam.
Depends on the listen. That my imam personally,
Your imam.
that the organization I just function.
Yes, your personal imam, the man who is your spiritual leader, leading your community religious gathering. Your imam. Would he distribute your money? If you build up some zakat at 5,000 you want to give to the poor, would you trust Kamla Prasad Bisesa to distribute that better than your imam?
That my imam, I might give my
God.
listen, him out, right? Because again, human nature is human nature. I might give my imam and the Jamaat let's go through the benefits of the doubt because they kind of have a good track record, but I wouldn't do it for everyone. Human nature is human nature. It don't really matter what religion or
The Prime Minister human?
Exactly, Abdul.
Just know.
Yeah.
It don't matter what religion or organization they belong to. I believe at the end of the day, human nature will always prevail in the sense that there is going to be favoritism, there is going to be greed. This is going to happen, and I believe it's going to happen more rampant without any kind of structure and laws to guide it.
I am Abdul. Here's the thing. I am depending on the favoritism. I expect your Muslim imam to take care of the poor Muslims in your community. And the Hindu Pandit and his temple will take care of the poor Hindus in that. Abdul, this is how we did it all the time.
Yeah,
Government, wait. The idea of social policy and social welfare is a new thing. The poor, even in the good book, Jesus himself said the poor would always be among us. They have been poor all the time. There would always be the poor. We have taken care of the poor since time began. One of the ways in human anthropology they figured out that humans began a more civilized settlement was they they dug up human remain from a while back, and they saw that he had a broken femur and he lived to an old age, and that was a sign, because a man with a broken femur obviously couldn't hunt, yet still he lived to an old age. So someone was giving him food.
Nathan, let me give you an actual example of something that should.
No.
Answer on it. Right. This is Imam Yassin Abu Bakr on an Eid sermon stood on the pulpit for his Eid Khutbah and said, if the zakat is not given, he is going to come for it, and if blood after be shed, so be it. And he was arrested and charged for sedition because he made that statement, because the zakat is not being dispersed as it should. Right there is my example of human nature and things not going as it should.
Abdul, I am a Christian. We know about pastors, spiritual leaders dealing with money. We know. It's not a secret. Lots of them around there. I still would trust them over Kamla. You see, we're not talking about a competition between God himself and the spiritual leaders that we have. We're talking between political leaders and the spiritual leader that you choose as your moral guide to life. And if I want to depend on anyone in this society to better distribute, I would look to them as a better distribution. It's not about who is the best in terms of perfection. It's about who is the best in terms of comparatively better. I will never believe. You cannot convince me. I have $10,000. I want to get it into the hands of some poor people, and I will go and call for the Prime Minister and go down to Whitehall and give Miss Prasad Bisasa to get it into the hands of the poor. That is insane.
Some may do it, as well as some may not do it.
And yes, just as the politicians. But I am saying, I am not talking about whether it would be perfect. I am saying who would do it better. And somehow you're telling me you believe that Kamla Prasad Bisasa would distribute your money better than your imam. I do believe you.
That's not Nathan. What I'm saying is human nature, for some reason, that's overshadow everything at the end of the day.
I agree. Yes. But isn't there human nature in the politicians too? And if it's just like the argument with the socialism versus capitalism business. Yes, human nature has greed in it. So even if there's a free market, they're still going to be greedy and try to kill out their competition and try to get in with the government to pass laws to squeeze out competition. Yes, we know that the greed still is there. But if there is human greed, should we have a system in the terms of that argument that depends on human self-interest, or one that is saying we're expecting all humans to rise above their greed? Obviously, the one that depends on the self-interest is a more sensible one. So if yes, human nature is there, humans tend to corruption. Yes, we know this. But if I am to depend on some group of humans, become a religious communist and worship the state and done, because I believe they are the best hand of God in the world. They are the ones best capable of doing massive feats in the world. So forget about this whole religious institution, this whole religious ploy thing. Forget that and go to the state. The guy who said he's an atheist, you can form social institutions outside of religion and God. There are many of them. Kiwanis, Rotary Club, those what you call lodge, and there's a long laundry list. But yeah, if I am to depend on somebody to do it, I'll depend on them. It's obvious. The religious institution in a community knows the people that are most needy. That's by default. They know them, because the people that are most needy are very often by the religious institution's doors. That's how it works. They would know. And if I am to depend on the human nature to try and fight it, I'll go in that direction. I'll go in that direction, not in the state direction, because they don't even have a moral impetus to attempt to fight that human nature. It's like when people make the argument about, boy, you go send your child to them church, you know what them priests be doing to them church, and they send their children to public school without looking at the statistics of what public school teachers do. Yes, pedophiles, those nasty, dirty people, like to go in places where there are many children. So anywhere where there's a concentration of children, you would find those dirty people, including the religious institutions. But that doesn't mean that the one run by politicians does it better, because it does not. Now, no thanks, I usually agree with you, but I have to disagree with you on the one. On which one? The one that public school teachers are much, much more likely to be engaged in bad activities than the religious people? You disagree with that? Well, then you're disagreeing with facts. So, feel free to disagree with the fact.
Eric Williams, I think Dr. Eric Williams tried to balance between capitalism and socialism.
Nah, he was lefty.
Tried that.
He was lefty.
Because,
he was lefty though.
He was. But he still wasn't trying to be like a full socialist leader where he have a squeeze on the economy, he have a control over businesses. He allowed that. I mean, he allowed that. Let me read. He allowed that. But the social programs that he implemented, I don't think that was so bad. It was designed to be a help. It just ended up being a political football and turning into, well, a handout situation.
I believe, and I said this before, I believe that the PNM intended the thing to go the way it went. I think they wanted to create an underclass. I think importation of small islanders combined with social programs was intended to create an underclass. And then when you watch how the PNM deals with entrepreneurship and businesses and the oligarchic businesses compared to the up-and-coming businesses, it seems to me like they were doing what they really decided to do. They wanted the country to be neo-colonial with them as the colonial heads.
But was it like that between 1995 to 2010? Was it like that?
I can't say the precise facts of the policies because I was young and we didn't have the internet to search every single thing. So I don't know 100% what it was like in terms of the policies. I could talk about the end result. And the result is that a lot of money went into very directed corners.
Like the entrepreneurship issue alone, I think was during, I may be wrong, wasn't it during that time frame that NEDCO was created with a particular purpose? It might have gone away and gone astray. But wasn't it during that period that NEDCO was created with a particular purpose to encourage entrepreneurship?
Yes, but what kind of entrepreneurship? What level of entrepreneurship they want you to do? The PNM likes entrepreneurs that the PNM's nature of entrepreneurs is 100 entrepreneurs that service NEDCO and work under NEDCO. So you're not 100% an entrepreneur. You're a government serviced worker who registered a business. They're not looking for you to go out and create your own business separate from the government that can roll over into your own increase of power. No. Don't come and look to chop up people's market share here. We want the market share to remain as it is. Plant dash in and send it in to Namdevco and they will export it for you and we'll call you an entrepreneur.
Yeah, but this is where, and maybe the school system is the cause for this issue we have in Trinidad where people are not being innovative. To me, the business community in Trinidad and Tobago is lacking innovation because why should we always sit back? Like, if you got a foot in the door, right? To me, if you get a foot in the door, why not take the initiative now and try to expand your business? Come up with find new ways to get your business into the market, to get into export market. You don't see this.
Yes, you do. Yes, there was an article just earlier this week from Dale Parsons, the owner of Kaleidoscope and Rude Boy. Kaleidoscope is making Rude Boy, talking about diversification. And he was speaking about that same thing. I move around in the TTMA a bit, the Manufacturers Association, and there are lots of people working in there. There are lots of people attempting to be very innovative in Trinidad. You know what keeps chopping them off? Forex and policy. Someone was innovative. They went to Turkey and started importing a different type of cement into Trinidad. This one cement in the market isn't suitable. Let's have some competition in the market. Oh, no, don't do that. No, don't do that. We don't want you doing that. Everybody and their dog had a small online business between 2010 and 2015. Y'all remember those days? Everybody had an online shop.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody. PNM coming in 2015, all of those pages. I wonder if people even closed down the pages, if we could go back in Facebook and search for the pages and find them.
I remember that issue.
Yes, so that is the fact of it. That is the fact of it. There are people attempting to be innovative. There are many entrepreneurial minded people. I find especially the millennials, lots of them are entrepreneurial minded. They want to do their own thing, but it's difficult. You're trapped in a country where outside of the country, they don't care for your money. And the Forex system is locked in where you don't really have open access to it. One company could access billions of US while you're struggling for 300. That's where the problem is. And someone said, just to address something that someone said earlier, you can't vote out your pastor, but you could vote out your government. I could change my pastor faster than I could change my government. If I don't like my pastor, I could go to another church tomorrow. Can you change Kamla tomorrow? Come on, let's be real. Good evening, Trini Kim. One person or family that got rich under any other government than name one person or family that got rich under any other government than a PNM one. SIS. There was a teacher under Colony Orange who got 30 million or something like that. A teacher. Vincent Nelson, King's Council, that the PNM was attempting to work against the UNC. What was his bill? Some 100 mil or something? Listen. You could go to another country just so you could go to an exchange, Brian. Like, let's not be asinine. Let's not be foolish. Like, why would you say something that you know is wrong, I know is wrong, everyone in the chat knows is wrong, and all of us know that all of us know it's wrong? Let's not be foolish.
Right, but does the current crop of business leaders, when I say business leaders, I mean the men at the top of the business sector in Trinidad and Tobago, do they care to enhance the current business environment for entrepreneurs?
No.
Do they care about that?
No. Of course they don't. That's not in their interest at all. They don't want that. Nathan, what do you think about the China meeting the world leaders? I think the leaders that will go all in on Team China are by and large people who aren't leading countries that seem very well productive on the global economy as it stands. So, the thing is, if the leaders of those countries and China's leaders are very innovative and creative, it's possible that they shake up the whole global economy by being more resourceful than the bigger players. But what my most likely expectation would be is that the bigger players, as they are generally able to do, would squeeze out the smaller players. Generally. Because you and I can get rich, it's hard but possible. But becoming a billionaire, you need government on your side. All right, I got you. I don't necessarily agree, but I got you. I think it is possible to become a billionaire without necessarily the government on your side. But I think it's much easier to become a billionaire with the government on your side. I don't think it's impossible otherwise, but it's much easier with them on your side. There have been men who have amassed power and wealth throughout the eons. It's a thing that happens. I figure that Trump sees it as a threat, especially regarding his recent Twitter posts like BRICS. Of course he sees it as a threat. And I think Trump might be one of the major problems for a meeting like that. If a meeting like that was going on under Biden, I don't think that Biden would have done anything overtly to stop it. But I wouldn't be surprised if Trump attempts to literally have punitive measures put on all the countries that attempt to deal positively with China.
Man was vexed, man. I'm vexed Putin right now.
Yes. Well done, short man. So I'm glad for you. Yeah, and he was speaking about that. He probably is a bit distracted from it now with the other many moving parts going on otherwise. But early on, he was speaking about any country that signs on with BRICS or Afrexim Bank. You know, a lot of people were telling us sign on with the African Exim Bank. And he was saying anyone who did that is going to face subsidies and going to face punishment.
But again, it's not. Yes, I know, like, we's a little speck. But at the end of the day, aligning with that is counterproductive to our progress.
Here's how I put it. It's counterproductive to our independent progress. But
Yeah.
Abdul, you should be very well aware. There are many people in this country. I think I did a short video on this. There are many people in this country. If given the option to go back to 62 and remain under British colonial rule, they would have chosen that.
Yeah, I agree.
There are many people who would have done that. And there are many people right now, if you give them the choice that we could vote in to be in a foreign overseas territory of America, they will vote with all 10 fingers and 10 toes to have that happen.
I think people are a little uninformed about being an overseas territory. I think they're hyping it up to what it really is not.
Yeah, I agree. But it's the buying into the Americana boy. Listen, lots of people in the world have bought and it's amazing to me. I talk about it regularly because you see the dissonance. There are many people in the world that bought 100% into the America is the promised land, the land of milk and honey where they would always want to go and be a part of. But also they buy into the narrative that America is the Satan too. So they believe America is the world Satan, and they also believe it's the land of milk and... Listen, I know some people, I know quite well, some people personally, I know them personally, that will cuss America day and night but will sell their kidney to get in. And will hide out in the people land when they get there.
I don't have an issue with the government one being an ally with the US. Cool. We do business with them, do trade with them. Nothing is wrong with that. But you see, when you're saying to me now as an ally, you want me to follow this path because you do like this path and this path not beneficial to you. But following what you want me to do is not beneficial to me.
Correct. And I remember you were there, you were in that live, Abdul, early on when Tanti Cams came in and she seemed to be towing a lot of the MAGA line. I was seeing, and I don't hide this, everyone in the live, and if you don't know, now you know, if I had to choose in between Trump and Kamala, even in Trinidad as a Trini, because I'm a Trini, I have no interest in being an American. If I had to choose, I'd prefer Trump. But I can't be MAGA. It doesn't make sense. I am a Trini. America's personal selfish interests would not be the same as Trinidad's personal selfish interests. Obviously, like, it would have been in our best interest for the Dragon Gas deal to go through. Whether Venezuela is a narco state or not, that's irrelevant. It would have been in our best interest for the Dragon Gas deal to go through. But it's in the United States' best interest that they squeeze us out of the Dragon Gas so they could keep the squeeze on Venezuela. We don't care for the squeeze on Venezuela as much. In fact, if Venezuela had less of a squeeze on them, we wouldn't have had this migrant surge of illegal Venezuelans in our country.
Yeah, we wouldn't have that.
So,
they would not even have had it.
The squeeze on Venezuela isn't really benefiting us. But yet still, we have to participate in that squeeze on them. And what I would like, I agree with you, Abdul, what I would like is we need some skillful dancers. We need some people who know how to rail dance at the top, who know how to work the floor. You go and you dance with Trump, but you dance with Maduro too.
We don't have that.
And you dance with Putin and all.
Yeah, we do. But there's the thing. Look at the Qataris. The Qataris.
Listen, Qatar doing magic, boy. I don't know how Qatar. Anyway, I know how. Money.
Yeah.
Money talks.
They negotiate. They all kind of thing with everybody.
You know, like it's nearly confusing. It's nearly confusing. The Qataris are one of the U.S. big allies. When Trump visited he made his Middle East visit. I believe he went also in Qatar. Enjoy, yeah, ally. But almost all of Hamas leaders live in Qatar.
Correct. Yeah.
A terrorist organization by U.S. definition. But Qatar knows how to do the dance. Al Jazeera.
Lacking that right now.
I agree. And that's why I said I said it before, what we needed probably was something like a sovereign wealth fund. And those countries, the countries that are even not capitalists, but understand that capital, even in the global markets, because the global market can't function under communism, because you need a leader for communism to happen. You need a police to communist the police. So the global system functions on the free market, well, free-ish market, with the US bombing people here and there. And they understand on the market, money is what matters, capital is what matters. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to put all of our money into, well, not all, but a lot of our money into a massive wealth fund. And when $5 trillion moves and shakes and asks something to happen, the something happens. They say, is it London? A third of London is owned by Qatar.
Yeah.
Like, what you going to do? What you going to do to the Qataris when they own a third of London? Like, you do understand, the reason the royal family is the royal family is because of land ownership. They own so much of the land, so it's best we treat you as royals so that we pay you some for the land that you own, as it were. So if the Qataris do the same thing, they can basically become de facto leaders and royals in your own land. China is doing that too, buying up farmland throughout the US. I believe Trump was trying to pass, I don't know if he passed it, some executive order to ban foreign countries from owning farmland in the US, but China was doing it. Buy up your farmland as a foreign entity. We have a fund and we buy up your land.
I was so shocked when who allowed China? How China move it?
It's
like how?
Listen, China understands global markets, you know. They open a holding company. The holding company registers a real estate company in the United States and starts purchasing. Simple as. They have deep pockets, so you can't compare us to them. We were supposed to have deep pockets too. We were supposed to be in the deep pocket game too. We had all the essential cloth to sew us a nice deep pocket too. But we threw it out.
Norway's wealth fund. Norway has a sovereign wealth fund.
Yes.
It's something like $1 trillion plus US dollars that they just take to invest all kind of things like all over the world, and they just invest it.
And the payback from that fund, funds social policies galore.
Yeah.
Then we could have talked about giving mothers baby milk, and you see, like we talked about this before, Abdul. If it's taxing to redistribute, I am against that. But if it is like a sovereign wealth fund, where Trinidad as an entity, a sovereign entity, invests its money, and now we are receiving what you call that, payback from the investments. Of course, well, fine. If you tell me the payback from the investment, we gain a couple billion this year, and we're using that billion to fund this and grand.
But
that's what we're supposed to have.
It comes down to leadership, and it's not leadership on one side of the aisle, it's both sides of the aisle.
Correct.
A heritage and stabilization fund was put in place. So none of these leaders, none of these technocrats, none of these financial people who are advising in the Ministry of Finance or even Central Bank had the bright idea or saw it fit to say, well, or advise the Prime Minister or the Minister of Finance, start investing money from the Heritage and Civilization Fund. Invest in tech, invest in this, invest in all kind of companies, start investing money. So nobody had that foresight.
I think many of them did. I'm sure many of them did, because we have skillful economists, world-renowned economists and investors in Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm sure that they got that advice and that many people had the idea. I think a lot of that, and I put a lot of blame right back there. I often do this. Multiculturalism. We have a low trust society because multiculturalism generally creates lower trust societies. And here's what happens in a low trust society. If my government gets voted in for 5 years, all right, I could take some of the billions that come in, put it into a fund, and use that fund to invest for money that will benefit my entire country in the next 20 years. Or for those 5 years, I could attempt to use every single dollar for my selfish benefit, whether it be to attempt to regain more votes, as in you use the money to spread the wealth, to attempt to buy votes, or in literal corruption, trying to get some back in your own pockets. That's much easier to see it happen. Now, in a country where it's much more homogeneous, we are basically all one big extended family. It's much easier to plan 20 years ahead because we have high trust. I wish for betterment for those of my descendants in this country 20 years ahead because they are all part of my family. But many people in Trinidad do not have that view. Many people in Trinidad what they're living, their aim in Trinidad is not for Trinidad to excel to the paramount of Trinidad's abilities. Their aim in Trinidad is for them to get as much as they can out of Trinidad and maybe even leave Trinidad after that. Extract as much wealth as they can and exit. Like, I think here's a way to force some of this kind of high trust back. No political leader child should live outside of Trinidad. Your vested interest in your legacy should be here. And if it is not, then you should not be allowed to run for our leadership. If all of your legacy are American citizens living the high life in Miami, which many of them are, what would be your interest in Trinidad succeeding the next 20 years down the road? Your interest is in extracting as much wealth today as possible to ship it out to Miami for your family to live into the future.
So, I mean, look at this right now. The Caribbean, like you say CARICOM, right? Because we deal with CARICOM or whatever.
Yeah.
Has no major, when I mean major, I mean major industry, like the aerospace, aeroplane industry, motor industry. We have no major industry except you come to Trinidad, have the oil and gas sector, and go up the island start tourism, which is dependent on people's economies. Right? They could have invested in an initiative to, let me see if we can get Boeing to come to Trinidad. We would get Boeing come to Trinidad, build an assembly plant, invest $1 billion in Boeing.
Listen, Abdul,
like,
Manning, you're talking about Manning's vision there. Manning had that vision. Low trust society. They fought him every step of the way. A timber processing plant that was supposed to import timber from Guyana and process it locally. The smelter, many other, a whole massive development in industry on the peninsula down there. But you see, in order to go into industry, you'd sacrifice certain other things. And some people were like, well, we don't want to sacrifice that, so no, you can't do that. So no, we get none of it. And that's just the reality. They said no. And no was the answer. But people had the vision, and some people attempted to do it. But the society didn't go along with it. And for governments coming in, governments going, if I looked at what happened to Mr. Manning with the smelter plant, would it make sense then for me to come in and try and propose some grand investment for future gain 30 years down the road? Or would it make more sense I come in and promise laptop for everybody and give every pregnant mother milk and give everybody $100 and give everybody a sweetie and give everybody a new engine and drop low rims? Which one would get me the votes easier? I don't think so, Otis. The man doesn't seem very charismatic. He doesn't seem like Prime Minister material.
You know how that don't make sense. Like that is crazy thinking. Like the reason you have a Ministry of Communication is to divulge information and try to get the public to understand what the government objective is. That's supposed to be the point of that, you know.
Yes.
If you want to bring industry to the country and will benefit the country in the long run, this is the point of having a minister there and all these people employed.
Correct. But
so
then
you say, well, I not taking that gamble because me ain't trying to get my head bust.
And but we're saying things that both of us know, where that's part of the weakness of a democratic system. That's part of that inbuilt weakness. I can't remember who said the quote that the democracies work for as long as the people, until democracies work until the people recognize that they could vote themselves into the treasury or something like that. Vote the treasury into their pockets, basically. And that's kind of true. People could recognize, wait, so I could vote for a leader that will attempt to send as much money in my pocket as possible. And which way will they vote? So yes, that's why democracy isn't a default good. Democracy isn't automatically the best thing ever, because there are some incentives in the democratic system that are not necessarily positive. I always say the natural human tendency seems to go towards monarchy, and the ultimate would be if somehow there was a beautiful, benevolent monarch. But alas, human tendencies. Alas.
Yeah, well, our politicians have it too easy.
How do you think it could get harder for them?
You know what this is? It's like the Trinidadians too pacified, and the pacified with as long as Friday and payday I could go online and eat some doubles and drink some beers, and it did in the 1970s to 1990. Like I don't know if the Ministry of Education or the people in power say here was something wrong. You see that? We don't want that line of thinking going on no more. We need to get rid of that.
I think people don't speak when their mouth is full. That's what happens. And the socialist revolutionaries, the socialist academics recognized this a long time ago, when they were attempting to force a revolution in the United States. And they came to the conclusion that they can't do it because the lower classes are too rich. The lower classes aren't miserable enough. Their everyday existence isn't misery. So it's hard to get them to get extreme. And that's why in the United States, the socialists leaned away from the class warfare, and they looked for the United States' original sin, as they called it, an attempt to use that wound to get their policies in. And that's why you end up with the racial dynamics, and they put race into a socialist framework where there's oppressor and oppressed classes of races. And then they put that into gender, where there are oppressed and oppressor classes of genders. And then they put it into sexuality, where there are oppressed and oppressor classes of sexuality. The oppressed and oppressor narrative is the basic Marxist narrative. And they had to pull it out of the higher class oppressing the lower class, because they recognized in the American context they weren't getting the lower class to want to murder the higher class effectively enough. And I think that's part of the problem in Trinidad and Tobago too. The PNM give it to them because of the general social systems. We have a pretty strong net. You don't generally fall through and splat on the ground in Trinidad and Tobago. You'll be caught in the safety net. There's a pretty strong social net. So there aren't a lot of people down on the bottom that are willing to do anything to get up. If I have no home, no job, no prospect to earn money, if as a man I can't earn money, then very likely I have no prospect for a wife and a family. That's how you get revolutionaries. And in Trinidad, we don't have enough of those.
Listen, we went from producing people like, and I mean, everybody had a fault in the lifestyle. Nobody not perfect. But the society went from producing people like Williams, C.L.R. James, McCandle Dagger, Stokely Carmichael. We go from producing individuals like this to producing nothing.
I thought you was going to say individuals like I'm calling some other names. You even call him just nothing.
No, it have nobody I seen that about that kind of that kind of rhetoric holding people in authority to account. I don't see nobody like that right now. No politician who in the parliament right now I see like that. Not one.
I kind of agree. And that part, I wouldn't blame that part on the full mouths don't speak kind of thing. I think what you're saying about the education is basically true, and not in education itself, but culture. The culture that was crafted in Trinidad wasn't given to that kind of thing. We didn't craft that kind of culture. When last you saw Trinidad intellectuals debating?
It don't happen.
It doesn't happen. And here's the thing. I think that's kind of a global, well, let me not say global, a Western global phenomenon. There was that decrease of the intellectual politician, the intellectual public debater. That happened significantly, I think, between the 90s and the 2010s. The thing is, I think social media may create opportunities for those to come back. Because you would see what there is in wider society. And I believe wider society always would have those people. It's just they were eschewed. They were pushed out of the public life for 30 years basically. 30 dream years in the Western world. The picket fence and the American dream sold to the Western world. You can't have too many intellectuals with rigorous public debate when you're trying to sell that perfect dream.
Yeah.
Iceland just went a year without a single traffic death. The blueprint exists. TT should follow. I keep trying to point out, do not ever compare us to a homogeneous country. We are not a homogeneous country. Probably 90% of Iceland could trace their ancestors to the same person.
Yeah, that's true.
That's not the case in Trinidad and Tobago. Dealing with different people is more difficult. Your laws have to be slacker. Yes, fix it now. Your laws have to be slacker because you have to allow a wider band of movement. You have to allow a wider band. We can't punish public indecency and modesty at the levels of an Islamic ruled country because we have many fully secular people that probably their religion is carnival. So you can't punish the public indecency as you might want to if you are of the Islamic persuasion. But at the same time, because we have Muslims, we can't do like some of those European countries and ban the hijab and ban Muslim wear. No, we have Muslim. We also have Shouter Baptists on the more Afro-spiritual side of Christians, where they were banned in Trinidad for a while, but they aren't banned anymore. That means now we have to open what they call the aperture, the space. We have to open the space of what we allow. Just by nature. Just by nature. We have to open that space. And when we open that space, many things become much more difficult. It's not as straightforward to get everything in the exact order you want it. Which direction do we go when we don't all have the same belief in which direction we should be going?
Wherever had to come to instill some kind of change amongst the governance and the people in authority and the decision makers need to come within this 4 to 5 year period, because if ExxonMobil is to find what they claim, they're going to find that is another oil boom.
And
that needs
40 more years are chaos.
and we can't have just nothing at the end again.
You know, and this, I know this is just wishful thinking to a large extent, but I think one of the most important things we need to get out of what you're talking about there is a breakup of the PNM-UNC dichotomy. And that's very hard to do. Like, if you look, we don't need to, in politics, we don't need to look at the United States because we don't have their political system. We have to look more at, like, Britain. And Britain is doing that now. And very likely they will get change in the next election. Because the Tories and the Labour Party that have been going back and forth for the past 50 years or however long since they had a little change, they look like they're going to have some struggle in the next upcoming election with a third party. And if that third party comes in, almost surely you would see dramatic change. Because a third party doesn't have vested interest in the status quo. The status quo doesn't benefit the third party. Yes, Guyana may be having some of that. Now, I didn't look at the final results yet, but Guyana seemed opposition has Mohammed ended up in opposition. I'm glad for them. I am glad for them. Because even that offers some kind of change. Even that offers some kind of change. What's that?
Who in opposition?
Wanted man. According to what Fix It Now says. I didn't read the results yet. But since I began reading, they said it was gearing up in that direction.
What?
Yes. Is Mohammed his surname is? Mohammed? Yeah, I think Mohammed is his surname. Billionaire Mohammed? Yes. But his party was set. They were set to head in that direction. But who will compromise the third party for us mindset shift first? No, I actually think the third party is first, and the third party could lead the mindset shift. I don't think you'll just get an organic mindset shift being birthed out of the ether just so. I think you need something to motivate the mindset shift. So, like in the case of Britain, as I said, you look at their politics for some comparators here, and I'm not saying which one is good and who was right and who was that's irrelevant to what I'm saying. I'm talking just about the changes. So you had the changes starting with the Brexit party. The party pushed for the change. And then the Brexit party evolved into reform with Nigel Farage. And he has been on the landscape for the better part of 15 years? And now he seems like he's going to finally get that change. They didn't magically get the mindset change, and when they already had the mindset there to vote in a third party, he appeared. No. So I think Michaela needs to hang around. Keep there and keep in the third party role. Do not let them swallow you up. Do not let them swallow you up. Yeah, they changed prime ministers really quickly. All right, that's all I have for now. Abdul, anything to say in closing, bro?
I don't know now. When I really sit down and I think about what really going on in the politics, the people in authority, nobody really there keeping them on the toes. Nobody really inspiring, paying that kind of thoughts in the population that here where we really need to hold these people accountable, and you're not seeing it coming. It's like a lost few generations just haywire, just on lying on the avenue, lying and drinking, and nothing more than that. So I don't know how it will happen, but it has to happen.
I agree. If there is any change, it has to happen. And you know, there are so many different factors inside of that. If we had a long-standing independent business community, even where the business community, instead of just attempting to buy out the government. They worked along with even society in attempts to make changes in the thing. But in Trinidad, even the business community seems like they've resigned by and large. So, well, it's just one of these two, so we donate to both of them, and whoever in power, we try to suck up to them now, boy. Because some of what you're talking about, Abdul, it needs funding. And that's where the business community would have come in. If you have a business community that has at least a partially antagonistic relationship with the political directory, you have some change happening there. But if they're all in one direction, the uniparty, as they say in the US politics. All right, people, that's all I have for now. Be educated, informed, entertained. I am Nathan Springer. This has been the Mindful Life. Make sure to hit us up on Mindful Education. The new term is coming up. If you're looking for online classes, we do online classes. If you're looking for in-person classes, we do in-person. If you're looking for group, we do group. If you're looking for individual, we do individual. For just about all CSEC and CAPE subjects, and from ECC, early childhood, all the way up to CSEC classes, we take care of those. So if you're interested, hit me up, message me wherever you see me. Until the next time, people, hold it down, stay good, stay well, stay inside, outside, sketchy. Be laters. Bye.